This is the Tom Bigby Tales, and I'm your host, Shannon Evans. I write about a small town in northeast Mississippi called Columbus, and sometimes I write about the rest of the state. With me tonight is a friend of mine. His name is Keith Johnson, and I met him through his grandfather, Ollie Morganfield, the nephew of Muddy Waters. Keith has taken on the family's favorite pastime of playing music and playing the blues. Keith, I want to thank you for coming on my show and welcome you. Tell me a little bit about what are you up to right now? And then we'll talk about Catfish in the Alley and how you're going to be here in Columbus in a few days.
Yeah, I will be. What I'm up to right now, I'm working on a new album called Deep in the Mud, which would be a Muddy Waters tribute album. So we've taken a lot of Muddy Waters songs and we've modernized them rather. Say it has the same feel, but it doesn't quite have the old sound of it because we just didn't want to re-record it and keep the same music with the vocals. So we did it the way I would perform them live, put a little hip to it. So we're looking forward to that coming out soon. And of course, I have my single floating around, Nephew Muddy, which talks about myself and Muddy Waters and the paths of the blues, the paths from Mississippi to Chicago, and how everything connects with each other. Working on a new book as well. And this upcoming weekend, I'll be at Ground Zero Blues Club doing a Muddy Waters tribute show for Muddy Waters' birthday, April the 4th.
And then when are you coming to Columbus?
I'll be in Columbus. It will be Friday, April the 11th at Catfish in the Alley, 12 o'clock p.m. till 2 o'clock.
Sweet. So you'll be here for 2 full hours.
Two
And what kind
full
of music
hours.
will you be playing? Muddy Waters tribute from your
Of
album?
course, of course. Everywhere I go, I have to play Muddy Waters music. That's a must for me because you're carrying that family legacy. They need to see how it passes down from one generation to the other. Not even as having something to compare it to, but knowing that, okay, I see the heritage of the legacy that he's being birthed from. Just
Uh-huh.
like someone of the King family doing B.B. King's music or anyone else. Yep, so I have to do that, and I'll do my original songs as well.
So were you born in Glen Allen or Rolling Fork? Because he was from Rolling Fork.
Yeah, Rolling Forks. When I was born in 1993, I had to be born at a hospital. So
A
people in the
little bit
early age,
different.
yeah, they were born probably on that plantation or in that area because they had midwives then. So I was born
Yeah.
at King Daughters in Greenville, Mississippi. But immediately after we left the hospital, of course, I went back to Glen Allen.
Okay.
I probably experienced a few seconds in Greenville, a day or two. Then everything else was just Glen Allen.
So you were pretty much raised in Glen Allen?
Oh yeah.
And where'd you grow up? Like, where'd you go to school and all that? Tell
Oh,
us a
Glen
little bit
Allen.
about your educational journey.
Yeah, Riverside High School. I went to Glen Allen Elementary School, which is the old Glen Allen High School. So when
Oh, right by the cemetery.
by the cemetery.
Uh-huh.
Yep. So I went to this old Glen Allen High School, and then a lot of children left the high school and they went to Riverside High School, which is under Western Line School District, Glen
Hmm.
Allen, Riverside, and O'Bannon. So they completely turned the school into an elementary school until it burned in about 2006, 2007 when the school burned down. And then for my junior and junior high school and her high school, I attended Riverside High. Then I went on to attend Delta State University and got my undergraduate degree in audio engineering, Delta Music Institute, and I got my master's degree in human resource management.
Did you do that at Delta State too?
Yeah, at Delta State. Yep.
Wow.
Everything was done at Delta State, and that was it. And just the culture there, Delta State felt a lot like Riverside to me with the diversity because in elementary school it was all black students. I probably had one or two white kids in the classroom, but from junior high up until graduating with my master's degree, everything has been so diverse for me. So I'm just accustomed to that environment. I chose the path. I did choose that path.
I'm glad you went to Delta State. I love it. It's a sweet little school. I love to visit
I love
there, and I really like their music program, and their music engineering program is pretty spectacular.
it. Yeah, it is. It's
Um,
unique. That studio, I think, is the only studio in the area. That Studio A they have.
Really?
That size that you
Uh-huh.
can record an orchestra in that studio.
Oh, wow. When you come to Catfish on the Alley, you'll have to go to Catfish Alley Recording Studio
Oh yeah,
and meet my friends there. They've just started a business there, and they've got a podcasting studio, they've got a recording studio. for musicians, and then they teach music lessons. And I've met some of the kids that have just started there, and Mason's already got them out performing in public at open
Performing
mics.
live. Wow.
And they're like 13, 14, 15 years old. I saw one, he was in his cowboy hat and his brand new Wranglers and his boots, and he had a pretty guitar, as my daddy would say, a pretty
Yeah.
guitar. It still had the stickers on it from the store, I think. And he had these four kids up there playing together. They were
And
doing
I'm working.
great.
I'm teaching music at Mini School of Music here in Cleveland, owned by Chris Parks. And I have a few students, 16, 9-year-old I'm working with now that I have on stage with me playing a lot. Plays blues by the name of Abby Hudson.
Is that the little girl I met?
Yep, with the pink guitar. You may have
Yes.
seen her with
Oh
the
my
pink
God,
guitar.
she's a riot. She's
Yep,
9.
9.
She had
She's 9.
absolutely no fear. She was up there with the whole band. She was
Oh yeah.
on ground
No,
zero. She
no
was
fear.
just getting it. That was
So
amazing.
I've been working for her for quite some time now.
She has presence. I thought she was great. I took
And
some
it's gonna get
photos.
better as we develop together. She'll get much better until when she grows into herself, who she is as a musician.
She's got the personality to go with it. You don't
Oh,
have to
it's
worry
there.
about that. She's got the
It's there.
stage presence. Everybody in that room was had their eyes on her. They were ignoring
Yeah,
me. It was
yeah,
great.
as they should. Yeah.
I want to talk about a couple of things. Let's talk about how we met. I met you through my work with the Mount Zion Memorial Fund. I met you when we came down to do some work with your grandfather. And your grandfather kept saying, "You got to meet my grandson. You got to." He's a proud grandpa.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And our work that we've started doing to research and to do a stabilization study on the old juke joint. So it's Alonzo Chapman's juke joint that he had in the 1930s. And do you know how your grandfather ended up with that building?
He purchased it in the late '90s from a lady. I think her name was Mary. Now, before Miss Mary had it, I don't know, but I do know he purchased it, and he rented that out like for a living space for so long until he just decided not to. I saw so many people come in and out just living there.
Uh-huh.
One room, he put a bathroom inside, and it just was almost like a small apartment.
A shotgun house, that's for
Yeah, the
sure.
shotgun house. So till a few years ago, he just stopped renting it out, and he probably was renting it out for $30 a month, if that, $20 maybe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Well, love your grandfather. He's a character.
yeah, and that bus beside it. He's a handyman, so
I
he
forgot
he
about
does
the bus.
the bus. Yeah, so he does a lot of creating, carving, creating, painting.
Yeah. What was fascinating to me, besides all his paraphernalia in there of alligator heads
Yeah,
and turtles and all the things
turtles. Yeah.
he's collected over the years, was the fact that when you go up in the rafters, the old, I think, what is it's called? It's the old ceramic electrical connections are still up there. They're not
Oh
much
yes,
use, but that old wire and the
it's
cloth
there.
covered in cloth and cotton, insulated wires and all
Yep.
that. But the other thing that was fascinating was it's the rafters and the age of that building was definitely pre World War One.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I think he told me in that building. He found like a lot of old items in there. What he did with them, I do not know, but he found a lot of older items in there at some point. And of course, I was so young. If I was older, I would have a lot more information about that and a lot more items from
Well,
it.
next
But
time I'm there, you're going to take me to show me where that jail is.
yeah,
And you're going to
yep,
take me over to where grandmother's house was, the pictures you
yeah.
showed.
It's in Hopedale.
Okay. Well, we're going to
Yep,
go see
Hopedale.
those next time I'm
Yeah,
there.
you have to go to Hopedale.
That'll be cool. So tell me about the albums. Are there any songs we know that you've
Oh yeah.
re-recorded?
Oh yeah, of course. Managed Boy, Hoochie Coochie Man, Blow In, 19 years old. I can't be satisfied. All of those hits that we
All the
just
good
really,
ones.
yeah, all the good ones. 40 days and 40 nights.
Oh, that's
I'm
great.
ready. Yep, a lot of those songs we re-recorded.
Oh,
And
that's
then
great.
an original song called Deep in the Mud we're working on. Yep, along with the nephew Muddy.
Oh, that's good. When did you find out you were related to Muddy Waters? Or
I mean,
did you always know?
yeah, I would say, yeah, I always known, but the significance of it, it kind of, I would say it found me rather than I ran to it because I was always singing. I started playing the guitar not because of anything Muddy Waters related. It's because I was going to church and I wanted to be a church musician, and I was inspired by the musicians there. I started singing because my grandmother on my dad's side, she was a gospel singer, and she also had a radio show in the morning. So she would leave Glen Allen and go to Greenville and do her radio show for over 20 years at a gospel quartet group. So she had an old style voice. I started singing and playing guitar off of that inspiration and listening to quartet music, older gospel music, and the Motown because I like the
Oh
Temptations,
yeah.
and so I really wasn't a big hip hop guy at all,
Uh-huh.
and still not to this day. But that's just the time that I live. I love that type of music. So when I began to play at Delta State University and join the old school band because I wanted to become a better guitar player, I didn't sing then. I was singing in high school, singing gospel, but I wasn't singing R&B or secular music. So I didn't start doing that until I got to Delta State in the old school review band with Barry Bays. And when they discovered the Muddy Waters connection, I was like, yeah, you have to do a Muddy Waters song. And that's when I did start performing Hoochie Coochie Man.
Oh
Yeah, that was the
really?
only song I would pretty much perform as I began to sing and play more. The Muddy Waters connection kind of what you some Muddy Waters, you know this Muddy Waters your uncle, can you do this? So I really had to adapt to it and take advantage of that and make a decision to continue that legacy. Because when you look at Muddy Waters' children, you know, he have two sons playing now. Had one son, he was deceased. They're mid late 60s, early 70s, and that's about 40 years older than me. So I feel like okay, we have to keep this family legacy going because not only did Muddy Waters play guitar, his dad played guitar. My grandfather plays guitar. I have uncles that play guitar and sing. Willie Morganfield and Clarksdale, a preacher, a vocalist. So it's a family legacy.
You've got some big shoes to fill.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I think you're up to the task.
Oh yeah. I'm not afraid of it, but it's just about it's. I wouldn't even say fill them. It just take the soul out of them and create my own shoe. But
Yeah.
long as I have that shoe with me, a part of that shoe with me.
So when you went to college, did anybody give you grief? Did you tell them you were Muddy Waters
Well,
and
what happened?
nephew, or
See, my name is Keith Johnson because
it's
my
not
grandfather.
Morganfield?
Yeah, it's not Morganfield. Now my grandfather's name is Morganfield, but my grandmother's name was Johnson. So my mom's name was Johnson until she got Patricia Morganfield Brown, and she married Brown, of course. But I had my grandfather. I got two. I have an aunt and an uncle. They're twins. Now they're younger than me,
Uh-huh.
1 year younger than me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've met them.
yeah. So their name is Morganfield, and everybody knew that's my aunt and my uncle. So when they asked them, you Muddy Waters, they were like, yeah. So it dawned on them, if you're kin to Muddy Waters and Keith is your nephew, he must be kin to Muddy Waters. So that's when they came back. I hear you're kin to Muddy Waters. I was like, yeah, wow, wow. You know how big that is? I was like, I've always known, but when you attach music to that, it becomes a different thing. Now you have this thing
Uh-huh.
because you can take someone in the family who's not musical. You're like okay, you're Kenny Muddy Waters. Or you can Keith Johnson. You can look at that. But when you add music to it and you add the blues in their legacy, now you have this thing that says, okay, can you hold a candle to what Muddy Waters is doing? Can you continue this legacy? Or can you put us in a time machine and take us back and embrace this moment or something? Can you reinvent this?
Uh-huh.
So I think that's what it's all about now. You have to play some Muddy Waters. You have to play slide, have a Telecaster, and just continuing their legacy because it's in front of me. And there's why should I walk away from something that's in front of me? And I can
Hmm.
perform it. It's not difficult. Everything comes natural to me. I don't sweat. I don't walk the floor. I'm not nervous and shaking, and it's natural.
You sure look natural on the stage.
Yeah. So yeah, nothing is rehearsed.
I find it interesting that one of my good friends you also play with is a guy from Alabama who works with farm reclamation and African American entrepreneurship in farming, Mr. Jock Webb,
Doc
who's
Webb. Oh
who's a
yeah.
great harp player. I adore Jock. He is
Told
just think the
me
world of him.
when I met Jock, He told me it was me when we first played together. It was me and George Mumford. We were going to do a two-piece at the Tommy Johnson Festival. This
Mhm.
was in 2018, the Tommy Johnson Festival in Jackson. And
You're getting
Jock was
old.
there. Yeah. And Jock was there. And it was like, hey, he talked with my managers. He was like, hey, this Keith, this Jock, okay. And we said, you know what, man, you should play harmonica with us today. It's just two of us. I played guitar, George played bass.
Uh-huh.
And Doc came in and he fit in perfectly. And he said, Keith Johnson, whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. He said, I'm with you until you tell me you don't need me anymore. And he's been there ever since.
He has the biggest, most giving heart of anybody I've
Yeah,
ever met. I just think the world of him. Is he coming to Catfish on the Alley?
yeah, I plan to have him there.
Yes. I love that. Good. I get to see two of my friends. That's
Yeah.
great in my hometown. How big is your band now?
I always just keep bass, myself, bass, drums, and keys. And of course, if Jock is able to make it. And if
Uh-huh.
Jock can't make it, I play harmonica myself. And we keep it simple with what I do. Now, in the studio, we're recording an organ with everything too. So that's been added on onto the
What a big
project.
Hammond?
Yeah,
Oh, nice.
yeah. We recording in Royal Studio in Memphis. So we're doing the recording there with Boo Mitchell.
Uh-huh. That's
Yep. So
great. So
oh
how
yeah,
long
we're
will it
doing.
take you to complete that album?
Well, right now we're just we've done all the tracking, so we're in the mixing and mastering stages. We'll be hearing something really soon. Right now we just did this big project for me with Vesta Jackson. He's engineering and producing my album too. I've been working with him for 4 to 5 years now. You
Uh-huh.
know, so he was a co-producer on the Plan for Change project, and we just featured in the Crossroads. You may have seen the video.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I saw that.
Yep.
When when you come to Columbus, you've been here before. I know that. You've been here.
A few times. A few
Yeah.
times.
Why do you keep coming back? We're glad we have you. Gosh, we're thrilled to have you, but and you know the history of Catfish Alley, right?
Yeah, somewhat. Somewhat. I've been about 5 times.
So
Every time I go, I get a little bit more.
it was where it was one of the black-owned business districts in Columbus. There were multiple ones. There was more than one. There was another one down on Bell Avenue in what's called Sandfield. And then there was down in Burns Bottom, there were some black-owned businesses and homes. But Catfish Alley was where even as a kid, we would go and eat at Miss Jones' restaurant. Everybody ate there. While it was black-owned businesses, there was a liquor store, there was the doctor upstairs, the dentist. It was very pivotal in the black community. And there was a grocery store on the corner right across from the Episcopal Church. And there were various businesses through there. And so it was part of the epicenter of the town. But what I remember is on Fridays they'd bring out these great big what do they call now, Blackstones? They'd bring out these great big grills and they'd bring out
Hmm.
these great big vats and they'd bring up catfish from the river. And so they would cook on those outdoor grills and they would cook fish and they'd cook catfish and then they'd cook hush puppies and of course you'd have coleslaw and whatever else. But everybody in town went down there on Fridays to get fish.
Well,
And it was where you
that,
went and saw people and you,
that's what we'll be eating Friday. Fish. So we'll
yeah.
come down on Friday.
Yeah. And that's right. They are going to have catfish
Yes, they will.
and there'll be several bands. But when you play at Ground Zero, is Cleveland still a rocking place? Or sorry, not Cleveland, Clarksdale. Is Clarksdale still a rocking place? I know the last time I was at Ground Zero and you were there, the there were it was standing room only.
Look, Clarksdale is still a rocking place. And this Friday, we want to rock it even harder.
Oh,
You
good.
know,
What time do you start playing on Friday?
uh, 8 o'clock until 12. So with this Muddy Waters tribute show, it's my first time doing a Muddy Waters tribute show. And of course, I spoke with his daughter and told her this is what I'm going to do and honor Muddy Waters' birthday. I don't even know if it was planned or not. They just put on my schedule April the 4th. And I said, that's a Friday. And she was like, yeah, I know. And I said, okay. I said, it's Muddy Waters' birthday, so we should do a Muddy Waters tribute show. So
I,
over half of my show will be Muddy Water songs.
oh, that's funny. Which suit you gonna wear on the
I
stage?
have no idea.
I
That,
love the
that's that.
shark skin suit.
Yeah, that's the hard part. What am I gonna wear?
Whatever's back from the dry cleaner.
That's it. You're exactly right. You're exactly right.
I do that you respect the stage and you always dress.
Oh
The
yeah.
one thing I've always been told is that not in this generation, but in the former generations, that even if they didn't own a lot, they still went on the stage and they respected the stage and they dressed
Oh
for
yeah. You have to respect
they
that.
dressed for the audience and everybody dressed.
You
So
have to respect that stage.
yeah, so that's a very refreshing thing that I always appreciate when I go to watch you perform. Let's remind people, we want people to buy their Catfish Plate tickets early, and you can buy them online to
We do.
through visitcolumbus.com. So that's a little pitch for our Visitors Bureau. So you can go on their website, you can go ahead and prepay, and you'll have your catfish when you get there. So they know how many to cook and how many to buy.
Yeah.
And I said, bring a folding chair, bring something comfortable. It could be warm and it could be breezy. We
You
don't
never
know.
know.
So it's outside. It is in the historic Catfish Alley. You'll want to dress and you'll want to be comfortable. So wear comfortable shoes. There'll be vendors there. There will be lots of music. And so let's remind everybody, what time are you playing and what day? So you're playing
Friday, April the 11th from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m.
from 12 to 2, April 11th,
April the 11th,
and
Friday.
which is a Friday. And what do you want people to remember most about this
And
interview?
I want people to remember Keith Johnson expressing his gratitude to my family, the Morganfield family, and how willing I am to continue this legacy. It's 2025. Muddy Waters has been dead for over 40 years now. He passed away.
How
We
old
want
would
to
he
do
be today? How old would he be this year? Do you know?
it. There are two things. One historian says he was born in 1913. Another historian says he was born in 1915. So you take whichever one you want to believe. Because I heard his daughter, I remember his daughter saying, I can remember her saying my dad was 70, but then they said he was 68 when he passed, he was 70. Because you know his birthday was in April too. Yep,
Well,
yeah, we'll take it from there. So we can take it to 110 or 108, however we want.
okay, he was over 100 years ago,
Yeah, he's
right?
over 100 now. So 110, 108. So
What do you think is the most endearing thing about his legacy and his music? What do you think people should remember most about who he was and about his music?
what I think people should remember most is the journey. Because a lot of time we focus on when Alan Lomax, per se, quote unquote, discovered him and recorded him, and he moved to Chicago to record records because he wanted to get off the farm. But just Muddy Waters was a sharecropper, a young man born into poverty, and his mother passed away at birth, and he had to live with his grandmother. That's when they moved to Stovall Plantation in Clarksdale. He wasn't different from any other young American that grew up in that time. So we have to, African American, definitely. So we have to look at what he was willing to sacrifice, willing to say, I want to get off this farm. I want to stop chasing his dream, and being able to move to Chicago and St. Louis and to support his family at the same time. Because what a lot of people don't understand, when we're off that stage, we're just dad and cousin and brother and grandfather and uncle when we're off that stage. So it's a balance, and you have to take your personal issues and put them into your music. So I think a lot of people need to realize who Muddy Waters the man was. That sometimes he did get upset, I assume. Sometimes he did get emotional and cry. Sometimes he did bite his tongue because he wanted what was best for his family. Sometimes he probably didn't. But we have to respect the man first before we get to the music. Or we can title it the man behind the music. But as far as the music is concerned, his music evolved blues and rock and roll. And to what we know is now hard rock, soul, southern soul. He is the grandfather of that sound, that Chicago blues sound. He electrified the blues.
So I was going to ask you about that. What do you think was his legacy besides his children and his family? What do you think musically was his legacy? What do you think he did that left the greatest mark on music history?
Oh, when he brought that sound from the Mississippi Delta and electrified it to that Chicago sound, that did it. That was it because that's when the Rolling Stones started listening, and the Beatles and the Claptons of the world. All of those people started paying attention, saying, "Okay, who is Muddy Waters?" Because they were singing the songs, true enough, but they didn't know who was writing these songs. So when you had to start at that point, when you have to give the songwriter credit for what's being done or the label, this is a Muddy Waters song. Let's find out who Muddy Waters is. So his sound itself, that deep tone vocally, that deep tone was almost as if you were singing from one end of the plantation to the next in the country. That sound, then that deep tone with his guitar, that
Mm.
style, that's what changed, and evolved in the music and revolutionized it.
Which song of his do you think has had the most musical influence on you or speaks to you most?
Me, For me, I like when he plays anything on slide guitar. My favorite song to play on the slide is Long Distance Call. Because when he plays the slide, it's like the room is quiet because they know, okay, whatever Muddy Waters is doing on guitar is speaking to us. So we don't want to say anything. It put people's in a trance to me. Put
Mm.
the audiences in a trance. So anything he plays on slide, I love it. I love it. I'm not a Muddy Waters slide guitar player. I'm not better than Muddy Waters in slide guitar. I love it when he does it, and I attempt to get there. I probably be playing forever, but I definitely try
Uh-huh.
to get there with him.
That trance blues rhythm is
Yeah,
just the best.
and it's the spirit of it, the spirit in which you slide and play those notes because it's coming from a different place. It's coming from a place of poverty, a place of struggle, a place of hurt, getting it out the mud. His path is different than mine. Not saying that I don't have my struggles or what's going on in my life, but of course, he paved the way that I'm able to sit on the phone and talk and discuss and saying, you know what? He gave me something that I can stand on, that his children can stand on, his grandchildren can stand on, his brothers and sisters. He gave us something that we can stand on. And we have a talented family with the Morganfield family, very talented family. So we're kind of a branch on that tree.
I love how tightly knit the Morganfield family is. And I love that y'all have your big family reunion and y'all go
Oh yeah.
someplace and make a big deal of it. I just want to inform you, your grandfather told me I was invited to the next one, so you best let me
Oh,
know
come
when it
on.
is.
Come on. I'll definitely let you know.
He told me he'd call me and let me know when, and I'm like going, okay.
Yeah, cause
Uh,
man, then we played guitar this past weekend. Pick the
really?
guitar up, he'll pick the bass up, and we just have a good time connecting.
Yeah, he's a sweet man. He
He
really
is.
is. He's got the biggest heart, and we just think the world of him.
Oh yeah, we
And I
all do.
love to just sit and listen to him. His stories are wonderful, and he's just very generous and kind. Back to Muddy Waters. You said he had his struggles and you have yours, and you and I live in the modern day, and you and I are both college educated. We had the opportunity. Uh,
Yeah, we did.
we had the opportunity to go to school, to go to elementary school, to go to junior high. I know your family was incredibly supportive of you, and I hear tell from your grandfather that he would have kicked you from one end of Glen Allen to the other if you hadn't gone to school. When you think about Muddy Waters' life, he didn't even have a fourth grade education, did he?
I
He
don't
was
think so.
illiterate.
And
So
he couldn't.
how
I
was
mean,
his music?
cause he had to work. He had to work. That's what
And
I'm
he had
looking
the
at.
mother. His
Yeah,
grandmother raised him. He sent to live with an uncle too for a while?
yeah. I know he lived with his grandmother. I don't know if he was sent to live with an uncle, but definitely a grandmother in
So
Clarksdale.
and then that was a different generation, and that was Jim Crow and all those
Yeah, we're
horrible.
looking at the 1920s and 30s. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's very different.
it was a horrible time to be a young black man, and Chicago was the way out. Many people went to St. Louis, or they went to Detroit and worked in the factories, or they went to Chicago, and
Part of that great migration. They went,
yeah,
everything was beginning to be industrialized.
So how do we know how he did he just store all those songs in his head forever? How did he get them out where the lyrics became recorded? And I know the lyrics shift at every time we play a song, we change the language or the cadence or
I mean,
whatever.
I believe he had his influences such as the Robert Johnsons, the Sun Houses of the world, Charlie
His
Patton,
son
and people,
Thomas. Yeah.
Son Thomas, yeah, people that he listened to. And I think that he probably created those songs. And when you create a song, even if it hadn't been released yet, you know your song. And when the opportunity presented itself, when Alan Lomax said, you know what? Because the tale is they were looking for Robert Johnson, but they found Muddy Waters. They were
Hmm.
looking for Robert Johnson. And when it presented itself and he realized what he had and what he could do, and he decided to pursue it.
So how old was he when he started performing for others? Did he start in the church?
Yeah, I'm assuming we all started in the church, somewhere singing and
Well,
playing in
and
the
a
church.
church at that time was also the epicenter of the Black community. So
Yeah, yeah.
it would be church on Sunday, on Friday and Saturday night.
Yeah,
The church
you
was
got
the
that
stage.
revivals, church all through the week sometimes because you
Yeah,
had
yeah.
revival. But definitely Saturday night, everybody's at the juke joint. At Friday night, they're at the fish fries. So
Uh-huh. The
I'm sure
socials.
I'm sure since he was old enough to perform and confident in himself, he probably was performing way before Alan Lomax even showed up.
And when did Alan Lomax come to find him? Do you know that story?
I don't know exactly when.
You're gonna have to go find it now because now I'm gonna
Yeah, I
quiz you
got to go find
next
it.
time.
Yeah, I got to go find it now. Well, I want to say like in 1943 or something, but I could be wrong.
Uh-huh.
So
So when did he go to Chicago?
now Muddy Waters went. Now he went to St. Louis first.
Okay. Which was
Then
common because they
yep,
only had enough money to get so far.
yep. So this is around 1947. I do remember that.
Okay. And St. Louis had a large African American community.
Yeah, they still do. They still.
And it was a lot of people from Mississippi went there. And so you went where you knew somebody, where you had a
Mm-hmm.
relative, and you
And that's what
crashed a place and worked until you got your own place. And
yeah. And the train, wherever the train goes, that's where
yeah,
I'm
well,
going.
that's why
Further north, the
Chicago's
train.
came right out of went from Winona and what
Mm-hmm.
Indianola, Winona, Greenville,
Greenwood,
Greenwood,
Greenwood. Yeah.
Indianola, and then it goes north, goes up to Memphis and keeps going. It was an obvious corridor for people to leave and get out of the grinding poverty of the Deep South and
Mm-hmm.
sharecropping. And that was a brutal life for anyone. When you started playing music and you started playing in the church, and you did anybody chastise you for not just playing church music? When
When I first started playing music, it was all church. I didn't play anything else but gospel quartet, traditional gospel. So around that time, there was nothing to chastise about. But when I got to Delta State and got into an old school band, and I went back to church, I went back to Glen Allen, left Cleveland, went back to Glen Allen to attend church, and I was playing a little riff of "Don't Let the Green Grass Fool You," and the preacher kind of looked at me. He
they
looked
give
at
you
me
the eye,
when I played pim 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 pim, he looked over at me like, no,
a little
I was
stink
like,
eye right there.
yeah, I was like, okay, I see. But that's funny now because now gospel music is mixed in with blues, R&B, soul, even though it was mixed in then, but now it's in your face. No, usually you can hear, I hear a little blues lick in there, or I hear some
Uh-huh.
gospel, I hear some something. But now they'll take an entire blues song, just change the word baby to Jesus, and now we have a gospel song. So
Well,
it's in your face now.
I'll give you my confession. I was playing in a little band at church, and my little friend was a really good piano player, and then my other friend could play the organ, and then our other friend, that was two girls, and then this guy was a good guitar player, and I played bass. It was a revival. It was a Baptist church. I'm not Baptist, but we went to the Baptist church because that's where all the kids in town went. And we were everybody was coming in, and I turned around and started playing the bass line to Flashlight.
Oh man. Now that's obvious. That's
It,
obvious.
yeah, you don't do that in the Baptist church.
Yeah, that's very obvious. You can't even disguise that.
The music minister, his son was playing guitar beside him. He comes flying in off the wings, and he's like,
You can't do that.
I
Not
thought his
here.
toupee was going to fly off. He can't, anyways.
We can't do that. Not
We
here.
can't do that. We can't do that. But you're right. I went out to Southside Missionary Baptist Church. They had an event not too long ago. I don't remember. It was a dedication for something. And they had these three women up there. They were gospel singers, but I was like, that's not gospel. That sure
Yeah,
sounds like
yeah,
the blues.
yeah.
But it
That's
was
what we
very,
are
it
now.
was a modern form, but it was really good. They were very talented, and it was a pleasure. It's a nice change from some of
So
the
you,
old
yeah, so
shall we gather at
you can
the
get away with
Abbey
that
and
now. And you can
the
get
old
away with
rugged
that now.
cross.
Yeah, nice change. Just, I guess people realize is what we're singing about.
Yeah. My last question for you is about your book. Tell me about your book. Do you want to share
So
about your book? You don't have to, but I'd love to know.
yeah, two I have. I'm working on Free Man Part Two. So Free Man One, opening the case, is a crime novel based out of Memphis, Tennessee, a faith-based book on a lawyer, and he's winning these cases. But in the story, we need to know how. Someone's pulling the strings because a lot of these cases he should lose, but someone is holding him up. And now a murder has occurred in town, and
Ooh.
he's turned his back on the community.
So is the first one out?
First one is out. I have copies of that.
Ooh, and it's called what?
Free Man opening the case. You can find that on Amazon actually. If you go to Keith Johnson, Free Man opening the case. Freeman,
Okay.
Freeman, opening the case. And my second book is It's Come to Mississippi, which is the book version of my song Come to Mississippi. It takes you through the Mississippi Delta with artists such as John Lee Hooker, B.B. King, Little Milton, Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf. It takes you through the Delta and kind of highlights those songs in the area.
You've been out to, oh shoot, now I just lost the name of the town. What's the little town out past Parchment, the next little town where they found where poor little Emmett Till's body was had to go to the morgue?
Money, Mississippi.
No, it's not Money. Money's where he was murdered or where
Murder.
he was taken. It's where
The
Sonny Boy
Tallahassee.
Williamson's buried. You know that W.C. Hand that was where W.C. the
Hey, when you said little town, I'm like, okay, 1,000 little towns just popped
yeah,
in my
no.
head.
It is called Tutwiler.
Tutwiler, yeah, yeah. I was thinking, I'm
So
like the Tallahassee.
the house where he lived when he got off the train is still there. It's about to
Really?
fall in. Yeah.
Somebody probably need to do something about that.
Poor Tutwiler. Somebody needs to go in there and do Tutwiler. Now,
Yep.
the other thing that's interesting is so when Emmett Till was pulled out of the river from where he was drowned, he had to go to an embalmer, essentially, because he was still going to have to go back up to Chicago. So you can't just
Yeah.
sawdust and ice wasn't enough. So they had to take him to a funeral home. So money's not, it's a good ways from there, but it's not that far. And, but Tutwiler was where they had pretty much out from there is where they had drowned him attached to that gin fan.
That fan, yeah.
Yeah, but the funeral home was there in Tutwiler. Is right across the street from where the gas station used to be in downtown Tutwiler. There's only one main street in Tutwiler, really. But it's past you go in Tutwiler and you go past the recreation center and you go in, and there's a little blue gas station that's not open anymore. That's just a little old, it looks like it's an old Gulf station, maybe. And right across the street is a brick building that's got ivy all on it, and the roof is collapsed in. And that's where the building's not salvageable, but that's where they took Emmett Till's body. It was the only black funeral home that could do what needed to be done that was anywhere close by. Before, I think the next one probably
Uh,
would have been Clarksdale. And it's a long ways from Tutwiler to Clarksdale.
yeah.
And for them to take care of the body and to prepare it for his mother. And she, of course, said she didn't want his face touched up or anything. She wanted people to see him just as he was. So that was where he was taken. So Tutwiler's kind of to me, it's just always interesting to me that so much of importance is right there in that one little town. So you have that building, you have Sonny Boy's grave is not too far away. And then of course you see Handy's house. And that was where he first got off the train and supposedly heard the music playing and he was like, stayed. And then he went on to Clarksdale. But the other thing is that the people who came in the 1950s and 60s and 70s and 80s, the nuns who came into there and created health services. And now there's a group of women there who are preserving some of the traditional African American community knowledge about quilting and canning and the kinds of arts that would have been traditional for people who had nothing because that community is very poor. There's no industry. There's no grocery store within 60 miles, and most of those people don't even have a car.
Man,
It is a very it's a fascinating place, but it's a heartbreaking place. So,
I didn't know that.
yeah, there's a the community center is where the kids go to play basketball, and then they in the evenings if they're going to have a movie, that's where the town comes to watch a movie, and they make popcorn, and that's where the ladies come and quilt, and that's where they come and pick
Yeah,
up.
not about the quilt.
And then right across the street from that is a little coffee shop, and the guy has the kids come do art there. He sells coffee to travelers who come through there to support bringing art to the kids. So they're doing art projects and they're playing music. And
Mm.
it's kind of like a teen center. Mississippi's fascinating. It will survive despite everything else.
Oh yeah, it will. It's a unique place, especially the Delta. I think right now the Delta is getting more recognition than anything. At this time, dealing with the culture, the blues, tourism, people are coming in, civil rights. People are coming in trying to find out, okay, we're missing something here. It's that diamond in the rough, man. It's here.
Yeah, I hope Clarksdale can hang on. It's got me worried, but I think as long as the
I think
spirit's
it'll
still there,
hang on. I think if it's gonna hang on because it's the only place that's when people think blues in Mississippi, they think Clarksdale, Mississippi, and people are coming to hear the blues.
I tell you what, we'll end with this. When you come back next time, I want to take you out into the Black Belt Prairie, which is right before you cross the Tombigbee River into Columbus, and go explore where the blues that were Big Joe Williams, the Hairston Boys, Chief Edward was from here, the blues artists who came out of Maurice King, people who came out of this area, Booker White, and Howlin' Wolf even. He was from the
Yeah,
Black Belt Prairie. And let you go through and take you around out in the county and show you where this side of the state's blues artists came from.
we should definitely do that.
I think you'd enjoy it, and I think you'd probably stumble across a few gems along the way.
Yeah, maybe write a new song.
All right, so let's remind people you're going to be playing April 11th,
Friday,
Catfish in
April
the
11th,
Alley
Catfish in the Alley,
in
12 p.m.
Columbus,
to 2 p.m.
Mississippi from 12 to 2. And that's Keith Johnson, and we can't wait to hear you play some Muddy Waters tribute and some Keith Johnson originals.
Yeah, we will. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on my show. This is the Tom Bigby Tales. Until next time.